So we are finally, and it's my absolute pleasure to be joined by the protagonist, the main star himself, Hustle Malone. Hustle, how are you, dude?
Tommy, I am doing good. Chat, what's going on? Thank you for having me on, brother.
We have a nice, big number in tonight, Hustle. Excited to hear you talk, my dude. Um, so we're gonna basically shoot the breeze, talk about wrestling, talk about movies, talk about whatever comes up. At some point throughout as well, we've got some questions in from the chat, so we'll get them to you as well. Um, so what I'm going to start with though is two questions from one of my mods, Hustle. So
Let's do it.
the first question, well, technically it's a two-part question. So the first one is, what was Hustle's first ever hustle?
Okay. Okay. Here's a hustle that links into wrestling, I guess. So character that I started as was as like a corrupt motivational speaker, and so it was a little bit Bray Wyatt-y, but then a little bit, I guess, like Andrew Tate before Andrew Tate was a real thing, and
Ah,
it was
nice.
kind of like, I'll improve your life. Just listen to me and do whatever the hell I say, or I'm gonna kick the crap out of you. And I had this like little group, and it came from me and some friends did like a motivational YouTube channel. And in retrospect, looking back to it, like realistically, we were just watching motivational content, internalized it, kind of like became really focused dudes. But really, like we were all 23, right? Who wants to listen to a 23-year-old motivational speaker, right?
What's
Do you know
this
what I mean?
kid know about life? Yeah.
I'm still in university. I'm still paying the fees, right? So what have I got to talk about? But yeah, it was all like really good tenants that kind of stayed with me. So I guess to a certain degree it was that because like through that I was able to talk at my old school and do like speeches at companies and things like that, and that paid the bills and that was pretty good. But
That's awesome.
yeah, eventually that version of hustle like kind of evolved into the one that's here now. But yeah, I guess that's kind of a hustle.
I love it. I love that. Okay. And have you ever been hustled yourself? That's the second part.
Uh, okay, to stick on the wrestling note, yes. So I
We
wrestled
get
for
wrestled.
a
We get hustled every time we wrestle. That's
yeah, pretty much.
pick a time.
Yeah, pretty much. So I wrestled for a promotion in Italy. A company that I worked for had a partnership with a company in Italy, and they brought some of them over, and we went over there as well. And I'm in the building. Everybody is match planning, and I'm just walking around going, "Where the hell is this guy?" Right? It's this guy called Horus. I'm like, "Where's Horus?" And it was like, I'm just walking around, just trying to find this guy. Where is he? Where is he? The fans are piling in. We're on early, and we're in like a complicated match, like a 2 out of 3 falls hardcore match, which I've got to help the cameraman win the match, and it's complicated as hell, and I'm freaking out, right? And I'm talking to some of the wrestlers, and obviously language barrier is a little bit of an issue, but not massively. So I would go like Sister Abigail, and they go, huh? And I go Bray Wyatt, and they go, yeah. And eventually, my opponent comes in 5 minutes before we meant to go out, and I go, "Where the hell were you?" Like at this point, politeness and wanting to come back has like gone out the window. I'm like, "Where the hell were you?" And he goes, "Oh, I was," because the building is like a gym at the bottom with the venue, then it's like a restaurant, and then it's like a bar up on the roof. And I was like, "Where the hell were you?" And he goes, "Oh, I was upstairs having a pizza." And I was like,
Pizza and a
"Jesus
pint.
Christ." I was like, "That's so comical. I can't even be mad anymore." So yeah, and then the other weird thing as well is so in this match, there's a spot where like I don't know, somebody like splashes water in somebody else's face.
Yeah.
Um, what I didn't realize about this company is the mat, unlike a UK mat where it's like fabric, I guess, like the top is like cloth.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was the top of the ring was rubber, and there was just am I called to swear?
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
There was a fucking puddle in the ring. So this spot happens. 10 minutes later, I'm getting ready for the next bit, and there's just like a handful of water just like sitting in the middle of the ring where he's meant to bump. And I was like, hey, it is what it is at this point. So
Wow,
yeah, I think everybody got a little bit hustled at that point.
100%. That is a very, very unique story, and I think that's set the tone for what's going to be a very, very fun stream. So majority of my Twitch chat are aware of who you are, what you do. But there will be people in this chat who have never seen you before. So, first question from me is going to be, who is Hustle Malone?
Hustle Malone is the protagonist. He's the, at least in his head, he's the main character of professional wrestling. In reality, he has watched so many movies and got his hands into the dough of movies and movie culture and cinema so much, he doesn't truly know where the lines are. So when he's looking at you, he's going, man, this guy is just like that guy in that movie that I saw that time. And if I lost, if you beat me in the middle of the ring, a normal person would take that away and they would go, man, I need to improve and I need to work on X, Y, and Z. And or maybe he was just the better competitor today. Hustle Malone goes, lost. I haven't had my montage. Every hero needs their montage before they win. And he just kind of, similar to Abed does in Community, he kind of sees the world and the wrestling world, particularly, revolving around him,
It's his
but
movie.
through these movie
Yeah.
tropes, right? Like,
Yeah, man.
this isn't a rematch. This is the sequel, and there's different rules in the sequel. So,
Horror
yeah,
movie 101.
hopefully in that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Love it. I absolutely love it, man. I think you've developed a character I think is so far away from anything else in British wrestling. I don't think there's anybody like you, and especially the extent in which you go. You know, from my side, I've been a huge fan of you for a few years, and it's being a movie buff myself. I can relate with a lot of the little tiny little intricacies in your promos that not many people may notice. And I think for those who haven't seen any of Hustle's promos, we did show one on the last stream, which is your latest one for Win Wrestling. And might I say, that is absolutely incredible. My wife, who's not a big wrestling fan, even she found it very entertaining. And I guess from my side, obviously, a peek into the life of Hustle Malone. You've just explained there with I like the fact that you referred to rematches as sequels. I think that's a very, very cool way to put it. Where does the sort of the influence come from to sort of really push the boundary when it comes to promos? Because I know a lot of wrestlers in British wrestling struggle, myself included, in delivering a promo that isn't just a white background with a grayscale filter on it. That's, how do you become so creative, and what sort of triggered that creativity?
First of all, thank you for those lovely words. That was very kind. That promo for Win Wrestling in particular, by the way, most surreal experience of my life, keyframing my head frame by frame for Flappy Bird,
Mate,
up
that
and down, like that.
honestly, when I saw that clip of your head floating between those pipes, I literally was crying laughing. It is genius.
I stopped a couple of times midway because it was exhausting, because it was literally frame by frame. There's a couple of times I just went, what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing? Do you know how many times during wrestling, whenever there's a weird spot or a weird match or a weird moment or whatever, that I just stand around there and go, I could have done bowling. I could have played football. I could have done literally any other sport. And I'm keyframing my head on Flappy Bird. What is going on? Where does that idea and thing come from? So I guess I'll trace it back to like kind of how I got into wrestling, right? I'm sorry if that's like one of
Yeah,
your
man.
questions.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. That's we will get to that, but I know that this is quite a key component on previous interviews you have done. So I want people to hear this because I think it is very, very important for people to understand where you've been before and what got you to the dance, basically.
Cool. So I started off. I was a videographer by trade, right? I would film like corporate videos and interviews, and I did a little bit for like SBTV, the music channel, and things like that, right? I was comfortable with
Yep.
a camera in my hand shooting other people. I got in contact from a bouncer that I knew, that wrestling company in the area wanted someone to just literally just film their shows with two cameras and stick them out so they can sell them on DVD. And I was just chatting about fitness to like one of the guys on the roster, and he was like, "Why don't you just come to training?" And in my head, I was like, "Oh, like I went to a wrestling session once. That's a cool story to tell the grandkids." And I went to that one session, and immediately they were like, "Great body slams, power bomb." Like now looking back, I'm like, Jesus Christ, that was my first lesson. You get me to do power bombs? What the hell's going on? But now, but like leaving that session, and I was like, "Oh, I did a suplex, and it went great. That's pretty cool." So then from one session, it goes like one match would be cool. Just one photo of one guy, of me in one match would be cool to tell the grandkids. And then you do that, and then you're like, one belt would be cool to have me holding it. And then next thing you know, you blink, and it has been 9 years, and it
Crazy.
just keeps going and going. What I find though is that there isn't a lot of focus from wrestling schools when it comes to the character stuff, and
Yeah.
I think the Monday Night Raw style of promo, the one that people always picture of like Ric
Hmm.
Flair in front of the NWA screen of like, this Friday night, you and me, you beat me last
Yes.
time, but you got lucky. I think it's done. I think it's ran its course. And if you get a Monday Night Raw and you get to do that stuff, then wicked. But they write them and script them like that so that they can cut the audio clips out to put in the video package. They need you to really
Yes.
slowly go, World Heavyweight Championship. And the editor is in the
Yes.
back going, nice. I don't need that. I don't need to name the date. I barely need to name the guy
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if I'm uploading it on social media, all that stuff is going to be in the description.
Very
So
well point. Very, very good point.
to link to like what you're doing here with Twitch, right? I think people need to see it less like promos and they need to just see it as content. And COVID was a
Yes.
great example of that. I can't cut a promo and being like, Dave, I challenge you on Friday's show because there's no show. So
Poor
I just
Dave.
need to keep my presence alive. So
Yeah.
I was doing like joke versions of like wrestling smash or pass. I was finding Hunger Games simulators and I was putting in the roster of a company that I wrestle for and just trying to create something from it. Um, to link back to your questions about like where it comes from and that, first thing is like in order to create inspiring stuff, you got to be inspired and you got to have like your blinkers on and like ready to actually absorb stuff, right? I always hear this story about, do you remember when like we were in school, there were the kids who did like GCSE and they've got the massive folders, the massive
Yes.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
A3,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? I always heard this story about this student goes to their lecturer and they go, "Hey, I've got the big exam, the big 12-hour exam or whatever this week, and I haven't got anything in my head. I just don't know what to do." And they go, "Oh, well, what did you do to get ready?" And they say, "Oh, I read the textbooks and I went over my notes and whatever." And they go, "Well, this is it. You have nothing to be inspired by. Go bowling, go watch a movie, go live your actual life and you will find inspiration and like things to take and to put together for it." And then after that, just trying my best to not be boring and to just go, hey, if I would find that funny or I would find that entertaining if somebody did that, well, I'm only a human being. There's plenty of me. Someone else would probably enjoy that too.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I think that's a key thing is being confident enough in yourself to be able to put yourself out there on such a way that's so unique. And I think, you know, your passion is obviously in the movies. We can clearly see that from your background there. You've got a lot of love for the movies and I think content creation, as you say, is definitely a key factor in what we do in 2024. I think more now than ever. It takes one video for you to blow up, and that can be in any walk of life. We've had wrestlers who have done something so off the cuff that they're getting booked on huge promotions all around the world from one video, and it's
I
it's
wrestle
crazy.
people. I wrestle people far, far beyond me, far better than I was, far earlier than I should have,
Mhm.
because of my promos. But what you said there about like you have to have the confidence to put that stuff out, I find it really interesting that like I always tell everybody, especially trainees, hey, your first 50 matches probably going to be dog shit. and that's okay. Mine were my first 150 matches were probably dog shit, right? It took so long for my wrestling to get anywhere near where my promo ability was. And I remember Hope Wrestling did a tournament called the Kings of Flight, and it had Will Ospreay and Chuck Taylor and Flash Morgan and Mark Andrews and all these people, right? And I
Wow.
remember like Mark Andrews is like foam rolling his back on the floor, and he looks up and he goes, "Oh shit, it's Hustle Malone." And I was like, I'm freaking out. I'm like, how are you
How do you
recognizing
know
me?
me? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've not done nothing. I've wrestled nobody. But I remember him and Flash Morgan in particular. They were like, just make sure that your wrestling catches up. Obviously, you can't do that overnight,
Of
and it
course.
took me a while to get anywhere close to that. But I
Yeah.
do find it interesting that like your first 50 matches, you have to do them, right? You have to just
Of course you
grind
do.
through them as quick as you can.
Yeah.
With promos, you don't have to put anything online, but it's a little bit like, not that I know about it, but like growing your hair out, right? Like you have a haircut and you're like, oh, I want to do this, and you have to get through that period where it's a bit crap,
Yeah, yeah.
and you have to mentally say like when you're cutting promos, oh, I need to get through that first, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 promos
Yeah.
until they're actually okay. But some people think, hey, do you know what? I'll just skip that genre altogether, or I won't figure out what that niche is. I chatted to Tommy Kyle, who's a fantastic wrestler who I know is desperately trying to break into the North more, and he's a phenomenal talent, so he absolutely should. Um, he was saying to me recently, like, that whole, this Friday night, like that
Yeah.
kind of promo doesn't work for him. And then he filmed this promo with Jonas after he had this exceptional title match where he's just like undoing his wrist tape, and they're like, "So, Tommy Kyle, you stepped in, what?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm fucking good. Damn right, I'm fucking good, and I've been fucking good for a long time." And he just cut this phenomenal promo that like shoots straight to it, and he was like, "That's your style, bro.
It's
You don't
refreshing.
have to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
Monday Night Raw. You found
Yeah.
it."
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the thing is like standing out from the crowd is so difficult because even when you're like, I'm not sure if you experienced this, but when I was in my first training school, we used to do a blow up drill and then you would do a promo straight after it. And it was always in that style of like this Sunday, blah blah, but again, you're obviously blowing out your absolute ass. But it's one of those things that it's the go to because it's what's expected in, well, I say expected, but it's the type of wrestling. That's the kind of thing that you're just sort of expected to be able to pick up. And I think promos these days, there's so many different types, and you're so right in what you're saying is that everyone should have their own content and be able to stick to it in a way that's unique to them. And I think at the moment you're peaking that, and I think you're very much at the top of the list at the moment of uniqueness in British wrestling. But I think having that baseline of, I think Stacey's just put it in the chat here, of remembering who, what, where is the key to an original, well, a simple promo. But then when you start sort of getting to the level that you're at, as long as you are able to deliver that story and be able to tell that story, because as you say, as you just said, then you don't even need to mention their name, and people know who you're talking about. People know when you're wrestling them. Tell the story through a different angle.
I was thinking about that win promo that you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the promo, I go, I'm cutting to the final boss, Liam McCarthy, and then I cut him out. I didn't say anything about him really because, well, I won't touch on why actually. Never mind that.
Yeah,
But I
don't
didn't say,
don't want to pull the curtain back too much.
and then he pulled it back over real far. But I didn't say, so I didn't say too much about him. But really, what I did say was, this guy's important.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm calling him the final boss, I see now that The Rock is now calling himself the final boss about a week later.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's
fair enough,
seen
Rock.
your
All right,
promo
you can
hustle.
have.
100%. He's seen your promo.
I'll come up with a different. I'll come up with a different nickname next time for him to have.
Yeah.
Don't worry. It's funny though that drill that you mentioned at training. I never got to do that, right? And that's quite fun actually. That's cool.
It was
I
fucking
might nick
horrible,
that
mate.
as a
Don't be doing that to
training
people.
skill on me. But the funny thing is, right, is it's down to like, okay, I said this to somebody the other day. if you hit a great finishing move in the main event of a show on a Saturday night, if you were to win the night, right? Let's say the clip went on social media immediately. If you were gonna win Twitter, take over Twitter for a night, you're competing with everybody else who also had a GIF or hit a cool move that
Yeah,
Saturday night.
yeah,
And
yeah,
let's be real, in this country, the odds of us of anybody really winning that Saturday night outside of like OJMO is hard, right?
yeah,
Because he's sick, and even then, that's even competing in this country, right? You might have the sickest main event in the whole of the UK right now, and then Osprey or wrestle Okada the same night. And
yeah. And
what
you're
what the
like,
hell are
oh
you going to do?
fuck, yeah,
But here's but here's what's interesting about promos, right? I could drop a promo on a Tuesday afternoon. Who am I competing with?
yeah, yeah,
That's my territory. I can have that all day, right? In terms of practicing, you can only really practice if you're lucky enough to be near a wrestling school that has a ring up full time, and
yeah.
you don't work in the day or whatever. You can go and train there whenever, and you can go and get better at your craft, right? If I'm on the way to a show and I'm sitting in the car with like somebody who lives near me, so I live near quite Charles Crowley, right? We might sit
Yes,
in the
yeah,
car, go back and forth. We're sitting in the car, and I'll go, Crowley, does Charles Crowley the character did I eat fruit? And he's like, oh man, I know I do, but does Crowley do that? I don't know. Maybe he's like a big kid and he just eats sweets. And I don't know. And he's like, all right, does Hustle Malone have siblings? And I'm like, well, I know I do, but
yeah,
does Hustle have siblings? I don't know actually. Maybe
yeah.
Hustle Malone is more of an only child because then it's like that kind of only child syndrome. And it's nice to see you differentiate and like span away from who you are because
Yes.
then you really like start to know your character back to front. You really know the answer to all those questions, and I think that's well cool.
I think honestly, do you know what? It's so fitting what you've just said there because I still remember when I first started training. I went for this angle. It was so stupid, but it was just because strong style was the cool thing at the time, and I went down that route, and it was so stupid. And but my trainer at the time, redacted, we'll say, said to me, "What is strong style to you?" And I didn't have a clue what to do.
Mm,
I did not have a clue. So when I started developing the violent gentleman character, the first thing I did was wrote down who he was, what he stood for, what his morals were, you know, why he was doing what he was doing, so that if anybody ever asked me that question again, I had an answer. Because as I
nice.
say, it having that backup, and not a backup, but more of a diary entry. That's probably the best way I can sort of describe it. Is to say, okay, this is Tommy Jackson. This is why he's kicking your head in. This is
Mm,
why he does what he does. And I think having that, because again, I am not the most proficient in ring. I'm always the first to hold my hands up and say that, but I like to tell a story, and that's absolutely key to everything we do. The only reason I watched WWE Raw back in the day was because of the stories. It wasn't because someone could do a 630 senton from the top rope. It was everything else around wrestling that actually got me hooked. So with yourself, and obviously we're talking about training and stuff. So I like to sort of peel back the curtain a little bit and sort of take you back. So you said it's 9 years now. Is that how long you've been wrestling for?
all right, yeah.
Yeah, 9 years. So almost a decade in the business. So how did you find that first sort of, I'll probably say first couple of training sessions, and how did you sort of react? How did your body react to the training, and what did you think the first sort of the most difficult thing to understand about wrestling, I would say, in the first couple of months? What were your biggest challenges in wrestling?
There was definitely novelty there for a while.
Mm.
So I started. Uh, I've got a friend of mine. He's one of my tag team partners in Team Mad. His name's Chase Williams. I
Mm.
went to school with him. I got him a gig as a referee while I was a cameraman. So we
Love
were
it.
like, "Oh my god, we're in the wrestling world together, mate! Oh my god, what jokes is that?" And
That's
I'm like,
so
"Phil,
cool though. That's cool, man.
right, right." And to go from that to like winning tag titles together, that's like really
Amazing.
cool. That's really cool
Amazing.
shit. So we were there and we had our first training sessions together. And we are like, "Oh, that was crazy, mate! Your body slam was sick." So that novelty was very much there. And
Yeah.
then it's funny how like in your head you kind of compartmentalize it as like these ones, there's a trick. So like you'll stand next to this dude who's like massively jacked, and you're like, so the body slam, what's the trick? And they're like, there isn't one. You just eat shit. And you're like, oh, right. Oh, okay, cool. So it's and then there's also like there's the stuff that just naturally like comes to you in one shot, right? Like I remember
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
showed me a Northern Lights suplex. First time I hit it, and I was like, this is the first ever time that I've just hit a move clean. And they were like, you should have that now. And I'm like, maybe I will. And and there's those ones,
How
and
long?
then the ones that
How long
you
did you keep that move for? Or are you still doing it today?
still doing it, baby.
Yeah, love
Still
to see
doing
it.
it.
Look, you know what?
Back
I
pocket.
can concur with that. As soon as you hit that one move comfortably, you go, I am never losing that ever again.
Yeah. And it's so funny that like sometimes you see somebody after years and they go, you still doing that thing? And then some of them you're like, God, I don't remember when did I last see you? Jesus. Kind of nice. It's kind of nice to like grow and like evolve, and like some things don't change. Um yeah, and then it's like in any I'm big into like the study of learning, right? If
Yeah,
anyone's ever read like 4 Hour Work Week or the 4 Hour Body, they're all books and things by Tim Ferriss that are all about like how do you learn something without doing it the long and grinding way, right?
yeah,
um and they said some what was it in one of his books, he talks about like the piano, and it goes, the thing with the piano is it's not like, I don't know, on your sixth lesson you learn Twinkle Twinkle, and then like over here you learn this and you go up in quality like that. It's like a long grind, and then
yes,
maybe a little win after like ages. And I feel like with wrestling, you almost need those, or you do get those like little wins here or there. Like the day that somebody goes, right, you're gonna have your first training match. It's gonna be 3 minutes. There's gonna be like 5 moves, and you're freaking out. And it's
yeah,
5 moves, and you're like, how am I gonna remember all 5 of these moves? And then a little bit like driving, when you drive and the first time that you're like going around a roundabout and you're turning and you're accelerating and you're changing gear at the same time, and you're like, oh my god, I did all of that stuff at the same, these are all things I did separately, and I'm doing them all at the same, and I'm checking my mirrors, and I'm like doing
mate.
the
I use
radios
that
going, and
metaphor in work all the time, and now you get in,
yeah,
switch the engine on, and then before you know it, you're switching it off, and you think, how the fucking hell did I get here? I use that
yes, yeah,
all the time. It's but honestly, I completely agree with what you're saying there about the with wrestling. Like I remember my first match exactly like that, and I was so aware of everything, and it was horrible. And now I'll get in the ring, and then before you know it, I'm walking back through the curtain again, and I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Where the hell did that go?
yeah.
But I completely agree with what you're saying there.
Yeah, it's funny how like you go in waves and motions of not just enjoying wrestling in terms of like enjoying watching it, right? Because I know some
Yeah,
people who go, I can't stand looking at anything, and it'll go up and down, and then you're like, oh my god, is like Sunday Night Heat on? Like stick that on for me as well.
yeah.
But you also go in waves and motions of like, hey, I'm really loving the things I'm doing in the ring, and then there'll be times where you're like, I know this is my sticking point, and I know this is something I'm working on. So like
Yeah.
in those early matches, it might just be a win that you get to the end and you're like, oh my god, 3 minutes, and I remembered all of the moves, and the right guy won, and like
Yes.
we got to where we were gonna go, and then like somebody will go, that's great, you didn't sell a fucking thing, you didn't
Yeah,
act
yeah,
at
yeah,
all, and you're like, right, yes, I've got to do all that stuff I was really proud of, and I've got to act at the same time, and
yes.
I did it, like I find a lot of wrestlers, they wrestle like, when you play the video games and you got like the green man,
Yeah.
like they're just like default man, and it's only
yes.
special wrestlers like your Randy Orton or your Bray Wyatt that like you could put them in a morph suit, they would do all their moves, and you go, I know who that is.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know exactly what you're trying to say there. I think, do you know what you've just said there about, because I remember the feedback I got back from my first match was you didn't acknowledge the crowd once,
Mm.
because I was so focused on what I was doing in the ring, and I was like, I come out of it and I was like, oh god, I got through it, and that was the way I felt, was like I got through it, and then you've instantly got that little high, and then they go, yeah, you didn't do this, and you go, oh fuck. So all that high has just gone, but again, it's you're so right in what you're saying, is that the one thing I love about wrestling is what is your perfection is somebody else's starting point. And I think there's so many different
Mm.
levels to what we do. Is that, say for example, me and you have a match and we tell a fantastic story, and there's 10 moves total in the match. And then the match that follows us is this high speed, technical, you know, masterclass of 5-star, ridiculous moves and all this crazy stuff. And people still go, oh, do you know what? I enjoyed that story match actually. And I think, but then you'll have the other guys who'll go, oh yeah, the story match wasn't really for me, but I really love that technical match afterwards. And
Mm.
that's what I love about wrestling is that, it's like a buffet, isn't it? And I think you can pick and choose what you want and what you like. And I think that there's so many different options out there now that you don't have to stick to one product anymore. And I think that but the other key thing as well is that just because you like tuna sandwiches over here doesn't mean that you can't have the chicken legs over here. And that just because you don't like chicken legs doesn't mean that they're shit. Just stick to your tuna, And I think there's so many different things that you can attribute to wrestling, but yeah, I'd say obviously coming from a filming background and I believe you did some acting as well. Is that right? Early on,
Little
or
bit
you?
soon,
Yeah.
mate, yeah.
So what? I can't imagine that the character stuff was much of a challenge for you, and I may be way off here, but what did you find your biggest challenge was when starting out in wrestling?
I just want to touch on that point you mentioned just a second ago about like wrestling being a buffet and stuff.
Yeah, man.
Thing I love is that like there is no right answers in wrestling. If we're
Agreed.
talking about issues of safety, like hey, the power driver should be like this. All right, great, I get you. I 100% no disagrees there whatsoever. But there are little things that quirks can reinvent, and on top of that, like I remember doing a seminar with Chris Brooks, and he said that he just went to a show in Japan where the entire show was based around the anime Attack on Titan, which, if you haven't seen it, is like people getting eaten by giants. And I'm
Yes.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
the more I hear about it, the more I'm like, how the fuck did that show go?
Yeah.
And I love when a show can have that variety, right? Like I've wrestled and I've commentated on shows which might be like this style of match. You know what I mean? I've been a part of like or I've watched like cruiserweight tournaments and I've commentated on like strong style tournaments. And
Yes.
even then, in that locker room, they'll look at each other and they'll go, right, how can we find some variety in here? And that up and down, like even if you do like chicken legs, if you just have chicken legs every meal, you will stop liking chicken legs.
Agreed.
So
Yeah.
that art, there is art to that. And I've seen, do you know what, that metaphor that you showed there about like, hey, you can have a fast paced match and then follow it by a story match. I've I saw a show which was like who was it? It was Jigsaw versus Osprey, and they tore the place down. And the next match, to make a point of that contrast, didn't bump anybody for like 7 minutes. And then
Love
when
it.
they bumped them, it was just like a tackle. Place lost
Place
their
went lost.
mind.
Yeah. 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 100%.
Bonkers.
Yeah, yeah. And do you know
So
what? It's completely right. I've just seen a comment from Faye in the chat here about Attack on Titans. She put Nazis. That's how that show went.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, yeah. I'm
Sorry,
just going
mate.
to go
I've
through some of
completely
the.
walked away from your question. What was
It's
you
fine.
remind me
We
of the
will.
question?
Yeah. So it was just, what did you find your biggest challenge was when you first started wrestling? And as I say, it may be the character work. Again, I was just throwing shit against the wall and see if it stuck. But it's what did you find was just the biggest sort of thing that you didn't, maybe a shock, that you didn't anticipate what was involved in wrestling.
Um, hmm. So I love the flickers of a real human being behind a character.
Mhm.
So you can tell when let's take somebody who's like at the top of this country right now. Give me a name. Somebody who's a big name in this country, killing it. Right?
Kid Lycos.
Kid Lycos, right? Boss. When he's in that ring, 100% of the time, you are seeing Kid Lycos. I know that when I started, I was Hustle Malone, maybe 60-70% of that match.
Mhm.
But in the moments where I'm thinking of what's next, or looking at the crowd and just like trying to shout something, or like something slips or my hands aren't there, I stop being Hustle Malone, and I don't, for those brief moments here or there, I'm Lee. I'm just a dude trying to
Yeah.
figure it out. And as time goes on, my percentage goes up, and you get more hustle, and you get more hustle. And now, thankfully, I'm only really Lee. I don't know, like somebody breaks their leg, and I'm like, shit, or I
Yeah.
break my leg, and I'm like, oh god, what am I doing tomorrow? um,
Let's hope that
I
you're late
love that.
outside of the ring and, like, you're not in Tesco's just like getting your camera out and, beating people up in the middle
Definitely, definitely.
of.
One quick side story, which I hope your chat will find interesting. So I'm
Go
in a
for it.
match, and this guy gives me a blue thunder bomb, right? And I land, and I'm like, ah. And I've got my eyes closed, and I'm like selling. There's this big bump, and I eventually I'm waiting to be pinned, and it's just not happening. And I like open my eyes, and the wrestler is gone, and the referee is
What?
gone, and I'm in the ring on my own, and I'm like, did these guys just Batman me? What the hell? Like, when Batman just disappears mid
Yeah, yeah,
conversation.
yeah, yeah.
What the fuck is going on? And I look outside the ring. The guy who did the blue thunder bomb, as he lifted me up, his leg just snapped, and he rolled out of
Wow.
the ring. And I'm like, oh, he's rolled out of the ring, and I gotta get. And the referee looks at me like, bruh.
Nope.
And I was
Yeah.
like,
Do not go
okay.
anywhere.
So I was like, right, it's time to pad. So I grabbed the mic and I just start like shit talking, right, for as long as I can to try and like keep, because this is 4 minutes into the first match of the night,
Oh no.
and I'm just padding to just try and keep the show going, keep the heat up,
Hmm.
right? My first match in this company in like a year, just trying to keep things going. And mid sentence, I just hear ding, 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 and the match is over. I was like, okay, all right,
do, you-
that's an experience.
and
But
I think, do you know what? Thinking on your feet though to do that, like, not many wrestlers would have the nous to go, shit, I need to do something here. And the fact that you've done that as almost took the focus away from this guy's fucking hurt. Like, he needs medical attention. And the fact that you've done that, and do you know what? And I think a lot of people might find that as like, oh, he's putting the spotlight on himself. I see that as you are helping that guy out by doing that. And I think a lot of people might, not see that side of it. And I think it's so cool the fact that you've thought, shit, we need to do something with this time. And that shows, again, the level of professionalism. Imagine that in your first couple of weeks or first couple of matches. You would absolutely shit it. So
yes,
how long ago was this?
this was 2021, so I'm nice and experienced by this point. But
Good man.
it's funny, like opportunities like this, little moments, they do come up. So I remember in my first year, I was in a match and the top rope like snapped off,
Yeah,
and I just like again I defaulted to Lee, and I was like, ah, what
shit.
happens? And I just like took him to another corner and I just did something else. And in hindsight, I was like, I was a heel. I could have grabbed the rope and like choked him with it. I could have like
Yeah.
hit him with the turnbuckle. I was like, oh man, hindsight would have been great there. And then years later, maybe 5 years in, I was on a show and one of the ring boards was broken. And I was like, Christ, like, what do
Been
we do
there.
here? Like, by this point, like, we're 10 minutes in, 15 minutes in, the show is dragging. People are like, God, I've been in this venue for 2.5 hours now. What do we do? So I went out and on the fly, grabbed the mic, started singing Backstreet Boys, and don't really know why. Just thought it would be funny. Managed to wrap up the song just as they finished the board, and it was like, excellent, thank you very much. See you in the main event. Bye bye, and just like put it down and like kind of escaped. But
Love it.
these kind of things will happen on shows, right? There'll be technical difficulties, there'll be awkward moments. Someone's doing a double and they don't quite make it in time. And as performers, we get to go, okay, this is going to be scary. But, I'm in my match later with a mate who I've wrestled 200 times and I know what I'm doing. I'm a
Yeah.
professional wrestler with an emphasis on professional.
Love it.
Of the match wise stuff, that's fine. I'm good. I'm comfortable, right? I know my moves. I know his moves. I'm good. I have an opportunity right now to do something scary, and that's where all the good shit happens. That's where
Yeah, man.
opportunity kind of comes from. So I hope I planted that seed in you now. I bet I
No,
hear some Backstreet Boys
I'm,
when I
I'm,
come and
I'm
show.
hoping so. Yeah, absolutely. As long as it's I want it that way, I'm good.
That was the
We have
one, of
we have
course.
had a question that's they want to know what Backstreet Boys song was it that you sang? I
it
want it that way.
was. I wanted that way as well.
It's got to be the truth. Backstreet Back's another banger, though. You know they've got a good back catalogue. To be fair, haven't they? You know what I mean?
I wanted something that like the audience could like bounce back with me.
Yes. See,
So
I would
like,
have defaulted to YMCA. I'm not gonna lie. Um, but no, I love it. So next sort of question. We're gonna talk about movies. I
mm,
think. Now I know you can't see me. Well, I'm not sure if you can on the stream, but behind me,
I've got you on the side. Yeah,
excellent. So you can see I've got an Elm Street sign, Welcome to Haddonfield sign, Camp Crystal Lake, Bates Motel. I'm a big horror buff, so
yeah.
uh, love my horror movies, mainly the classics. Now, movies. What is your go-to comfort movie? First of all,
Comfort movie.
and
Okay.
why?
Uh,
And why?
okay. Comfort movie is a bit of a less popular movie, right? So there's a movie called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's got
familiar.
Ben Stiller in one of his few like serious
Serious
acting
roles.
movies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's about a guy who he's got like no control over his life, right? His life is controlling him, and he daydreams all the time to get away from his crap situations.
Yes.
And as he eventually gets opportunities to have both hands on the wheel himself, the daydreams stop and he starts to live really cool lives. One thing I love about this movie is it's all shot on location around the world and it is stunning. If you watch the movie, it will make you immediately want to book a holiday. It's
Yeah,
beautiful for that sense. It's great.
love
But
it.
to an extent it really resonates with me. You know, when I was like 12, 13 years old, I was a kid who had like, I mean, when you're 12, 13, you have no control over your life, right? You're
Yeah.
stuck in school. And, you know, if you want to go somewhere, like I grew up in East London. So if I wanted to go or do anything, my parents were like, where are you going? Who are you going with? How much money are you bringing with you? Have you got your phone? What mates are you meeting? Give me your mates' numbers in case you get mugged. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had no hands on the wheel, and I would play like WWE video games, create a character that would be like, oh man, you know, this is what I want to be when I grow up. And he was like, big and tough and jacked, and like nobody messes with him. Um, so then, yeah, when I watch this movie and I see somebody like step out of their comfort zone, I think it's beautiful. It's yeah, great to have on in the background anytime. Real nice story.
Love it. So I'm gonna ask you. This is probably gonna put you on the spot a little bit. So I'm not expecting a lot from you straight away. Your top three recommended movies that people may not have watched. It's quite difficult, but I want some quite obscure answers that you think people may or not have seen and they need to. And again, I'll give you some thinking time if you want. We may come back
Okay,
to it later.
I'm gonna okay, I'm gonna put myself a little bit on the spot here as well. And I know you love your horror. I know you got your horror there in the room. I'm gonna immediately dive in. Me and my partner see everything horror, right?
Love it.
Half of the ones in this wall are horror. One that I really want to shout out is so I particularly love found footage horror. And the thing I love
Yes.
about that genre is that like the barrier for entry is so low.
Yes, yeah.
It's a
Honestly,
real
like
like
bargain bin, £2
yeah,
DVDs, you can find a classic. Grave Encounters for me is one of those that I'm not sure if you ever.
yeah, yeah.
What a great movie, but it's so stupid, but it's incredible.
They're oh man, I could talk about bad movies all day
Oh
long.
yeah, yeah,
Especially that like I love that on Amazon Prime. You can just upload anything.
yeah.
Just fucking anything. They just let anybody with an internet connection stick a movie on there. So
Agreed.
I'll talk about good before I talk about bad. Gonjam Haunted Asylum. I don't know if that name rings any bell to you, but
It
it's
doesn't
essentially
know. I'm
right.
making notes, you see. So
You're gonna love this movie. So it is two sets. So it's Korean movie. Two sets of like paranormal influencers meet up, and they go to the real life most haunted asylum in all of Korea. They had to get legitimate special government permission to film at this place in the real world, right? The thing I love is the first half an hour of the movie is them all just meeting up, and they go like, they go and do like water sports, and they go to a cafe and they get lunch, and there's just nothing scary in the first half an hour at all, and it's just a great like, I don't know, a false sense of security, because
Yeah.
obviously the scary stuff is only going to happen when they go to the fucking asylum.
Yeah, of
But
course.
everybody that I've ever shown this movie to has bricked it. Um, yeah, gone. Where is it? I've got one. So on this wall here, I either collect like fan posters for movies, or I
Yeah.
collect ones from different markets around the world. So I find
Love
it
it.
really interesting to see like, the American Spider-Man poster versus the Chinese Spider-Man poster.
What a
Very
what
long
a
jam.
cool background that is. And I can see what we do in the
Long...
shadows there. So guys, you know what to
yeah,
do. You know we have lots of sounds on this channel of purely like, I know that is that poster from the Australian movie, or is that from the series?
that's from the movie, but I am a big
Yeah.
series fan as well.
I'm not sure if you heard that come through, but it says you really are the most devious bastard in New York City.
New York City. Yeah,
um
Mo.
fucking that show is just incredible. But it didn't come through. Oh, it didn't come through on the other side for some strange reason. But I will sort that out. Bear with me a second. I won't be a second, guys. I forgot. I've
Great.
got to set up my blurps on this side. So if I will replay it just for you, chat. Let's see if it comes through.
You really are the most devious bastard in New York City.
Redeemer!
And now we're
My
getting
man! Redeem these nuts!
something that blows my ears off every time, and it's redeem these nuts, which is always fun. So, but yes, so what I will do, guys, as well, is after the stream's over, any of Hustle's recommendations for films to check out, I'll get him to send me on a message, and I'll post them in the Discord, and you can check them out at your own leisure. So
If you don't wear a cape,
all
you
we're
look like
getting
a
now
fucking
in my
neat one.
ears is just what we do in the shadows quotes just going off of my ear. So that's it. It's like putting 50p inside of them. Like once they start, they go off.
Yeah.
So just going back to what you're saying about the asylum.
Emotional, damn it!
They've started. I should not have switched that on. Is the scene in Grave Encounters where they go up to the gardener and they say, "Have you ever seen anything haunted around here?" And he goes, "No, I've only been here for 2 weeks." And then you see him like giving him $50, and he goes, "This is Javier the gardener," and he's like, "Have you ever seen anything?" He goes, "Yes, I saw a ghost over there in the window," And it's so genius, so stupid, but it's just little things like that you go, do you know what? This is what most of these like ghost paranormal teams are actually doing to these people. But again, if you believe in that stuff, I believe in something, but not. I don't know whether those shows are very very believable or not. But it's that's in fact that's a good question. Have you ever experienced anything paranormal in your life before, Hustle?
Mate, I felt something paranormal in my life a week ago.
Love
Right?
it.
Get ready for a
Love it.
goddamn exclusive. So,
Let's do this.
Some of your viewers might know Big David Grant, the
Mhm.
Dark Fruits Daddy. He's at Wrestle Island. So, Dark Fruits Daddy is doing a tour over the weekend with wrestle parties, right? It's where they host private functions across the country. They're leaving from here, but because they're traveling to like Newcastle or something from here, he's got to leave at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So he stays at mine the night before.
Yeah.
We get some food. We film a promo because he's got a big match against Simon Miller. We film this promo, whatever. We're hanging out. We're chilling. Now, my partner loves witchy stuff, right?
Love
like
it.
the witchy aesthetic. And this is already a bad sign. So in the living room, she's got this like big long crystal. So a big long crystal about this long, like thin. It's like a baton.
Yeah.
And then in front of that, she's got, we call it a cauldron. It's essentially a wok that we took the handle off, right? and she's only ever done stuff which is like, I don't know, positive vibes, right? So if somebody
Yeah.
passes on, she'll go, I'm gonna burn something in the garden that like helps them move on, or it will be like, I'm gonna do, you know, if I've got negative vibes in my life, I'm gonna burn some sage and it'll just make me feel better or whatever, right? It's never any like I'm gonna hex my boss, right? It's always positive stuff. So this is hanging from the window and the pot is hanging like connected to it, right? Because they're both hanging off the same string. We're in the middle of talking, right? Nobody is anywhere near it, and it goes bong loud, right? And we're all just sitting there, and we're like, and I look at him and I go, we all just saw this. This actually just fucking happened, right? And my partner immediately goes, I'm gonna go upstairs and I'm gonna get some sage, right? To
Yeah,
like
straight
smoke
away.
it out,
Yeah.
right? Move everything away. So she goes upstairs to get some stuff, and I'm just, again, me and Grant are just looking at each other like. Now I know, right? Every window is closed. I know there's no wind. Like there's nothing touching it.
Of
Like,
all the objects to fall, you know, like that's the sort of creepy aspect of it as well.
well, this is it, right? So it doesn't fall because the stick is there and the rock's there. It just kind of goes
Bang.
like that.
Yeah.
Like the gong is sounding around the house, right?
Wow.
And as my partner is upstairs getting it, and me and Grant are just both sitting there going, "You see that? Yeah, yeah, I saw that. Do you see that? Yeah, I just fucking saw that. You see?" As we're saying this, it goes bong and falls off.
Wow.
And you know, there's that meme about like when dudes see a magic trick, they're like, nah, 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 and they just start walking around. Me and him are just like, what is going on? So Asia, like my partner, deals with that, right? Smokes the place out. Again, all night we're just like, what the hell? Like we take it down and we move it, and we're like, what's going on? Grant leaves for his trip at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I wake up at like 8 or whatever, and I text him and I go, "Hey mate, did you get off all right? Like, I hope you got some breakfast and stuff." And he goes, "I didn't fucking sleep at all, mate. I was terrified." And then I chatted to some people who were like on this trip with him, and they were like, "Yeah, we stopped Grant at the front with the driver because we wanted the driver to have somebody who would stay awake, and Grant fell asleep within 10 minutes." I'm like, "Don't you dare blame Grant. It's not his fucking fault. You left him with the driver. That's the worst guy."
That's the worst thing you should be doing right now, yeah.
You should have all done a polar hands. Like, anybody get haunted last night? Just me? I'm in the back then, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Again, I grew up in pubs, so we've seen just some very, very strange things. That again at times I can't explain. And again, what the first time we ever saw something, we were in our first pub, and it was me and my brother. The pub was shut for renovations, and the pub was on the ground floor. There was a restaurant in the middle floor, and then we lived at the top floor. So it was quite a big building. And so there was a big windy staircase all the way down. So we were walking through the pub to go out just to have a kickabout on the front, and this white sort of thing just floated right past us, right in front of us. And we both stopped dead, looked at each other, and I went, "Did you see that then?" And he went, "No," and just walked off. And he just didn't want to. And I was like, okay. And it was only about 4 or 5 years ago I asked him again. I said, "That day that I saw that, did you see anything?" He said, "Yeah, but I just didn't want to believe it. Like, I couldn't believe it." There was some other creepy things that just happened, like things moving on their own and stuff like that. But I think the most surreal moment I've ever had was we were in our second pub, which was based in Liverpool, which is now a KFC, which is really, really strange. They couldn't knock the building down, so they just built the KFC into the building. So, but it was almost like a U-shape building. It was really strange. So there was an end room, a spare room. No one ever went into. It was always cold. It was above the cellar, so there was constant chill in there. And it just felt, uneasy all times. And we had friends and family over who'd brought their dogs. So we put the dogs in this end room and we were playing with them and stuff. And they both just stopped dead and just started barking into the hallway. They were just looking at the hallway, barking, going nuts. And I was like, oh, sure. So I walked out of the room to say, "There's nobody here." And I looked down the end of the the hallway, and it just looked like a little boy. That was all I can. It was so strange. And I looked back into the room to my brother and I said, "Can you come here a second?" And as I looked back, there was nothing there, and it proper freaked me the fuck out. And again, it was the strangest experience of my life. And again, I have no rational explanation as to what I saw. It just, I can't even say it was it was just the shape of a boy. You know, that it wasn't a human. You could see it wasn't a person, but it was just such a surreal experience. And I was like, okay, no, maybe not. And just sort of walked off and just brushed it off. But it was one of those things that, you know, over the few days later and stuff, and I spoke to my mum about it, and she said she'd seen a little boy running around and stuff, and it was so surreal, and I just didn't sleep for weeks. Horrible. But my sisters have got stories of seeing things, and again, it's one of those things that I think when you live in an old style building, you just, I don't know whether your brain is just trained to be like, this is an old building, there's going to be ghosts. You know what I mean? It's you wouldn't go to a new build house and go, this house is haunted.
The story about your mate being like, no, I didn't see anything. I love the idea that like that kind of comes from movies a little bit, where it's like they feed off being known or something. Who knows where the fuck that comes from? But the idea of like, if I don't acknowledge it, it's not real. It's kind of like when you're under the covers. Like if I don't look, then they're not.
The monster's not going to get me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if your bed's not hanging off the bed, it's not going to pull you under and stuff. Yeah.
100%. Oh, they walk in the room. Oh, fucking another duvet. God damn.
Yeah, fuck's sake. Yeah.
God.
I love it.
Just that actually reminds me, if I can throw you another horror recommendation. Actually,
go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
So there are two movies called Host or The Host. One of them is a Korean movie about like some big sea monster or whatever. That one's great, but it's with really good people in it. That one's great. The one I love came out during COVID, and the entire movie, it's a bit of a COVID time capsule, right? So the whole movie is on Zoom, a little bit like how like Unfriended and stuff was on.
Oh,
on
yeah.
The entire movie is only like 40-50 minutes, the length of a Zoom call. At one point, like two characters meet up and they bump elbows, and you're like, oh, nice. But
reference, yeah.
Yeah. Damn, this was really well put together.
Yeah.
But like the cool thing is like the guy who directed it, he also does like stunt work, and his partner does like makeup prosthetics. So because there was like legitimate, like this is like real like March, April of 2020, because they legitimately couldn't like meet each other. He was sending like, hey, let's say, I don't know, like your nose comes off or something in a scene. He would get the prosthetics of the nose, put it in an envelope, mail it to you, and then on FaceTime with you, be like, right, this is how you put it on, right? Move that there. And like that's why everything looked like so completely legitimate.
That's so cool.
I don't know anybody who's seen it and not like chat themselves to that. So that's a real good movie.
Yeah.
Whatever. So that's a banger.
Excellent. That's fantastic. So we're going to jump over in a moment to some questions from the chat. But there's one thing I really, really want to discuss with you. And I know that it's something that you're very proud of, and rightfully so, is your weight loss. Now, when we first met, it was around, I'm going to say 2022, maybe, something like that. And you'll agree, you were carrying a bit of extra weight. You took some time away, and you've come back in the last sort of 6 months-ish in incredible shape.
That's right, Cam, man. Thank you.
Oh, no. It's true. I'm only saying what I see, dude. So what was the thought? Oh God, he's dropped off. I think we may have him back. Do we have you back, dude?
I'm here.
Yeah, we got you back. We got you back. So what was the thought process of the weight loss, and how did you achieve it?
Cool. So overall I've lost about 60 pounds.
Wow.
I think it's in kgs. I'm such a wrestler. I only
Oh
think
yeah,
about pounds.
it's pounds. It's
Um,
pounds.
am I a cruiserweight or am I not? That's the only rule.
Are you under the 205 limit? Yeah, that's it.
That's
That's what we
it.
need to
That's
know.
it. I'm old enough to remember when it was 220 and then it fucking changed. Anyway, yeah. So if I can just generally talk about diet and fitness and stuff like that
Yeah,
in general, right?
absolutely. No, crack on,
There are,
dude. Yeah, yeah.
there are so many different types of diets out there, right? Keto, intermittent fasting, goddamn slim and water, like all of them, right? Realistically, all of them are in some way food restriction or calorie restriction, right? They're all the same thing. Which one is the best one? It's just the one that you can stick to.
Agreed.
They all, let's be real, they all work.
Yeah.
All of them, every single fucking one of them works. But the one that you can stick to is the one that is best. So if you are like, I looked at like keto and like no carb and stuff like that. I like bread too much. I like tortilla wraps too much. I can't do it. Right. So that is not the one for me. But I did always like kind of mentally say to myself, like, oh, if the world ever got to a point where I could work from home or be home all the time and, be able to like cook and not have to eat out and stuff like that, like, oh man, I would definitely be able to get in shape at that point. Because, the last time I said that, I was working at a job that was like right in the city center and I would meal prep and bring food with me to work. But I'd still be stationary at a desk for how many hours a day. And if I didn't have enough food with me, the closest thing to my door is Burger King.
Yes.
And I'm only a human being. That's strong.
You
So,
spell that all day, you are eating it. That's yeah, completely agree.
100%. And every like corporate place in the world is just like Pizza Fridays, and it's like,
Yes.
what
Yeah.
do I do?
Yeah.
So I mentally kind of said to myself, like, so when COVID hit and I was able to work from home, I was like, I'm out of excuses now.
Yeah.
I've got to kind of put up or shut up. This is what I've been telling myself for all this time. So I sent a message. There's a great wrestler from down south. His name is Cy Gregory. He's a 15-year wrestling veteran. I've had some really, really enjoyable matches with him. He's a big, like, 80s style Hoss wrestler. If you'd have just popped him into the Iron Claw, he would have just fit perfectly.
Love it.
But yeah, great wrestler and a really nice dude. And I sent him a message and I was like, hey, like, I'll tell you my why, right? I've been overweight since I've been like 5 years old, right? When you spend that percentage of your life overweight, you mentally start talking yourself out of being able to believe that it's real. And to his credit, like I've chatted to other people who've got different PTs and they're like, I have to have this meal at this time at this whatever. And Sai, the best thing about him is that he made it easy for me. He made it work around my life. So I've been able to lose 60 pounds, working from home. I'll have a treadmill desk. So I'll stand on our treadmill and I'll look well intense in the mornings.
On then Zoom calls, just sweating your ass off. Just
100%. I'm like, yeah, things are going great. And then like I chat to Americans in the afternoon. By that point, I've already hit my 20,000 and I'm tired. And they're like, I thought you were the treadmill guy. And I'm like, I've done my work. Fuck you. What you talking? Well, you do something, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm able to get my steps in. I'm able to go to the gym at lunch. I'm able to go to wrestling training in the evenings and be able to meal prep and be able to cook at home and stuff like that. And yeah, I admittedly like to connect, like, I guess, weight loss to wrestling. I got motivated by the results that I was having when it came to fitness. My love for wrestling was kind of waning, and I was I was becoming very outcome dependent. I was mentally saying to myself, if I don't get signed in the next 6 months, if I don't debut at Progress in the next 6 months or whatever, then I've failed. But when I look back at it now, I've only got one hand on the wheel for that shit. I can't sign myself. I can only control what I can control.
Yeah.
So I took some time off, kept training, and as I said to myself, hey, I'm going to do, I lost a bunch of weight. I said, I'm going to do a little bit of ring work and just kind of see how that feels.
Yeah.
I noticed that my body worked completely different. When I would hit the mat, I would hit it with so much different speed. My jump, my leap always used to be awful. Now, when I do an up and over, with no practice, would fly over. things like pull-ups, going crazy, right? And it's been really fun and really exciting. I only came back the end of December.
Wow.
It's been 3.5 months. I'm enjoying my wrestling work more than I ever have, and it does make me think back to that early time of training. The moves that I would do that would suit me, they were kind of the moves that I could get away with.
Yeah.
And now it's so funny that I'll watch like a Shane Strickland match, or I'll watch an Osprey match, and I'll go, I think I could do that, And then I'll take those moves to training,
See,
and some
I'm
of them I
I'm I'm
will.
17 stone, and you know what? That's my red flag. Is I sit there and I go, I think I could do that whilst Osprey's just done a 630 fucking
Why not?
flippity do,
Why
and
the
I
hell
go
not?
no, I couldn't. Just for the second, I go, I think I could do that, and then I go, oh no, I couldn't.
What,
But
mate?
I
Why?
love it.
Why the hell not? I don't see why not. But like, I won't say that it was like. I won't say that like I did it in the blink of an eye, because I
Yeah.
didn't. It took me like a year and a half, or whatever. But I will say, right, and I'm sure some people will hate me for saying it, but I'm gonna say it. I will say I did it in a way that made it easy, right?
Yeah.
I bought shitloads of protein cheese, which you can get from Tesco, and I
Love
had,
it.
mate, every week I have hot dogs and pizza and burgers and sushi and ramen. I have
Yeah.
dessert every single fucking day, right? And I eat good shit, right? And like when I speak to some people and they're like, yeah, my dinner is like half a cabbage and like plain chicken or whatever. I'm like, it doesn't have to be like this.
Yes.
If you learn the education around it, uh, have a coach or somebody there that like to be able to help you be accountable and stuff like that. Like I said, I did it in a way that made it easy, and that's what stopped me from quitting, because every other time before I was like, I guess I'm just gonna have to burn myself into the ground and learn to love plain chicken and rice for the rest of my life. If you're looking to be an actual genuine bodybuilder, sure, maybe you might have to sacrifice the protein cheese pizza
Yeah.
every now and again.
Yeah.
But yeah, genuinely, like I did it by loving the way that I eat, and now I'm very lucky that I get to really love the way that I wrestle.
That's great. Honestly, man, you've absolutely smashed it, and credit to you. Um, you've done some incredible things, and I think, as I say, for yourself, you seem happier. And it's absolutely credit for all the work that you've put into every aspect of your wrestling, and I think, as I say, it's definitely the best is yet to come from what I can see. So we will jump over now to the Discord and some questions that have come in for you. So I've got a couple of questions I want to end with, but I'll go with these first. So, if you could be in any movie, hang on, if you could be in any movie, what movie would it be?
So I'm a big fan of like the cyberpunk genre. I
Mm-hmm.
love somewhere up here. I've got a poster for Blade Runner 2049, as you can probably guess by the blue and red, even though the 3D colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that Blade Runner. If do you know what, if I could be in any movie, if I can like kind of cheat and loophole and like create one, a movie based on the game Cyberpunk 2077. I think they've built such like a rich world, which is like cyberpunk stuff, and then a little bit like there are so many elements of that, which is a little bit like futuristic Top Boy.
Yes.
Yeah, all of that
Yeah.
together is like entirely my jam. Like on my list of like pie in the sky ideas of promos that I want to do, I want to do something where I like create an AI that talks to me, right? So I want to do a video where I've got like where I'm like, you know how Tony Stark has Jarvis?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to do something where like I turn my bathroom mirror into like an AI, and the AI is just like
Use the wok.
uh
Use the wok. Use the
the
wok and the
ghost
crystal. Yeah, and the ghost comes and talks to you. Yeah.
Ouija board is just like fuck RPD, and I'm like, all right, cool.
Ah,
Something with that kind of AI thing we go, and then something like found footage horror would be cool as well. That's
yeah,
definitely somewhere in my list.
love that. So next one is so the first question was from Faye, and the next one is also from Faye. So if you could have a cinematic match, what would the setting be, and who would it be against?
Mm. Do you know what I would have? I would. So I like the promotion in Japan, Kaiju Big Battle, and
DD
if
in our
anyone
chat
has
may know who that is. DD in our chat is a big fan of Japanese wrestlers. She loves DDT. She's always recommending loads of stuff to us on there.
amazing.
And Faye knows it as well, so she's popped up and said she knows it as well. So
Yeah,
go on, I'll let you answer.
For anyone who's not familiar, if you look up Kaiju Big Battle, their ring will be filled with like these like cardboard buildings, and like I like the idea of
It's like Power
one-
Rangers style, like when the Zord would be fighting and stuff, and they'd have the buildings around them and stuff. Yeah,
yeah. I would do something like that. Explosions of like sparklers, like explosions of plenty, and you can't really do a kaiju match without kaiju, so it'd have to be Warren Banks.
Of course. And again, I was lucky enough to share the ring with Warren once, and what a professional! Such a great guy, and such a huge miss for the business. So again, I'm hoping to try and get him on here at some point as well. But yeah, that would be incredible. That would be so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
So
He's a real
go for
lovely dude, and I
He is.
filmed him before I ever wrestled with him. Then I trained
Mhm.
with him, and I never planned to come back. So maybe we'll get lucky.
Hope so. I hope so. He still owes Casey Payne a match, so
Yeah,
it's that was building, and then he decided to ride off into the sunset. So I think you'll be second in line if he does decide to come back. Carl, just what you were saying there. So you said questions dropped in Discord. If you want to drop any questions that you have posted in the chat, just repost them in again, and I'll pick them up as we go. And anyone else who may have done it. So our next one now is from Joel, who is a trainee at the Wrestle Island Training School. We need to get you up there for a seminar, I think. I think you.
I'd love that.
Yeah, I think you definitely need to come up, because I think, especially from a character standpoint, I think loads of people would really benefit from a character workshop from you. So it was any tips for trainees and anyone wanting to start. So what would be your initial tips for people wanting to start?
Push yourself. We lose until we win. So the same way that I said earlier, most people's first 50 matches will be bad. There is nothing stopping you from cutting a promo right now into your phone about anything the hell that you want. It doesn't even have to go out. That's the magic thing, right? To go and train, you have to go and you have to hit ropes, and you maybe have to take somebody with you. There is nothing stopping you. Let's make up a hypothetical rule right now, right? Let's say you have to spend 2 hours as your character before you can be comfortable. And I remember really early on, I was maybe like 6 months in. Me and a bunch of people were in the same like class, so we all came up at the same time.
Yeah.
And we were in this battle royal, and everybody else is freaking out. Oh my god! Like by this point, this is maybe like our second match, third match, something like that. Everyone's freaking out. They're like trying to remember spots, and I'm chill, and I'm not just chill. I'm not sure why I'm chill. And then it kind of hit me. Yeah. I'm just like, okay, here's another one, I guess. Like people shouldn't be that calm on their third match or whatever. But the reason why I was that calm is because, all right, if we've all had 3 matches, let's say they're all 10 minutes each. All of these guys, we've all had 30 minutes worth of being our character, living in their skin. But I filmed a promo a week, however many weeks for all this time. I've already hit my 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right? I've traveled in cars with my friends, and we're just shooting the shit. And I'm like, hey, does your character, what kind of music does your guy listen to? And if they give me their answers, like the real person's answers, too many times in a row, I go, doesn't count, change it. Like if you like rap music and your character likes rap music and you like Rice Krispies and they like Rice Krispies, you're not playing a character anymore. I'm just asking you out on a date. Do you know what I mean? At that point, I was doing a Facebook quiz. So I was able to live as this guy for so long. So I knew him inside out. So in those moments out there in the ring, I just looked confident. yeah, so that's the first thing I would do. I know a lot of wrestling
it.
schools, they won't teach it. You can do this on your own, my friend.
Yeah.
Best of luck, and I hope you enjoy this journey. Enjoy it as much as you can.
Excellent. So another question for Roll. Why did you stand on my AJ Styles glove 7 years ago at the island? And that's a very specific question, Joel.
That is a very specific question. I've done a lot of mean things, my friend.
2 seconds.
Yeah, I told a little girl in a Pikachu hat that I stomped the Bulbasaur flat. Um, I was on the Jonathan Ross show once, and I was in the red chair, and it was an episode. I came and I was in the queue to just go watch Jonathan Ross, and they said, "Has anybody got any stories?" And I told this story that I'll tell now in a second. And they go, "Oh, The Rock is here next week. We'll give you more tickets. You can come back next week and tell this story." And in the first show that I like did a promo in my hometown, I'm like talking crap to the audience, and like this kid heckles me, and my instant reaction is like "fuck you," whatever. But I know I can't swear, so the
Yeah.
first thing that comes out of my mouth is "I'll drown you," and I move on and I keep talking, and I hear the noise in the room, and in my head I'm like, I'm done. This is it. This is my last show. Good work, buddy. And I get to the back, and I'm just like, oh my god, what do I do? Do I go apologize to the kid? What do I do? Will I kill the character? What do I do? And then the promoter just comes in. And he goes, "That was my favorite bit," and that turned out all right.
I love it.
But yeah, bring your AJ Styles glove. I'll stand on it again.
There we go. There we go, Joel. So will there be, and this is from Carl, we have, will there be another main character massacre match down the line?
Oh, I very much hope so. I've got so many more props. I've got so much more gear. Yeah. It's funny, the not like regret, but like the feelings you get after a match where you're like the hindsight, where you're like,
Yes.
man, I could have gone further. Man, I could have gone even more.
Yeah.
I remember I pulled a baby Grogu out from under the ring, and the crowd were like, "No, don't do it!" And I punted it, and and in hindsight, I'm like, man, we could have done a baby Grogu like ladder match. That would have been great. So yeah,
That's hilarious.
give me any genre, we'll come up with something.
Yes, I love it. So, last couple. So Joel again. So, what wrestlers have inspired you?
I think a really obvious shout for me is I'm going to say Bray Wyatt.
Yes.
As I said earlier on about like Randy Orton and stuff, like he moves and wrestles the way that he is. He's not just like in the entrance way, like, I'm a movie star, or I'm a rapper, or I'm a cowboy, or I'm a spaceman, and then the bell rings and he's like, lock up. I'm
Yeah.
why the fuck would a cowboy lock up? How does this make any sense to me?
Yes.
He knows who he is, like back to front. And the other thing that I thought he was exceptional at was like his pacing, the way that he talks was so good, right? He understands that there's mystery to be played. The same way everyone else will go this Friday night on SmackDown. The first words out of his mouth is, when I was a boy, I had a dog, and you're like, now immediately you're like, well, what the fuck happened to the dog?
Yeah,
I need to know.
You're
I need to know the
interested.
answer. The same way that like when Fight Club comes on at 2 a.m. and you're scrolling through channels, you're like, well, I might as well just stick to the end of Fight Club now. You know what I mean? I need to see what happens at the end of Fight Club, even though I already know. And yeah, and I you'll notice, like, if you go to like my Facebook page, you go to videos. I love how Facebook kind of collates it, right? I wish Twitter did that better, or even Instagram did that better. But I look at that like my portfolio, and the same way that certain attributes will carry a wrestler. This wrestler is great because of his speed, or because of his strength, or because of her technical ability, or whatever it is. I look at those promos and I go, this one is all based on wordplay. This one is based on the editing. This one is carried by the effect. This one is carried by the reference, or this gimmick, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's nice as well that like sometimes I'll use that even to refresh for myself. Like
Yeah.
I'll look back and I'll look at the last 6 and I'll go, these have all been really wordplay based. Maybe I need to whack out, like I've got a pull down green screen. That's how you know you're invested in promos.
Yeah.
Got pull down green screen. I'll do too many that are wordplay based and I'll go, do you know what? It's time to edit your head on Flappy Bird again.
Yeah. The Flappy Bird has to stay. Like even if it's not a reference anymore, just your head floating through things. That's your new gimmick now.
Well, I've got the treadmill desk. Maybe I'll do Temple Run.
Mate, again, you're just inspiring yourself just at all times. It's great to see. Just a quick, not a question, but a statement from Faye here. So when you beat / stole Lance's belt at Wrestle Island, straight following that, when you did commentary for Super Strong Style, my son was still fuming at you over Lance when he spotted you. So across 2 companies, you were hated. So you're doing your job right. That's the main thing. At least you know.
Love that. What a dream. Pinned
Yeah.
him completely legally, by the way.
100%.
No shenanigans, no monkey business.
No,
So
no. Way I see it is you got the 3, you got the belt, good to go. You know, that's that's the way I see it. So what are your thoughts? This is from Miles in the Discord. So what are your thoughts on cinematic matches?
on like mine or like WWE's?
I'm assuming he means WWE, but again, I guess it could be yourself or WWE. What are your thoughts on how you do one, and maybe what are your thoughts on overall what they're being delivered like?
I think there's a massive place for them. I guess I wish indie promotions had the money to pay for them.
Yeah.
Because like me and you could meet up and go to like an abandoned warehouse or an abandoned cinema or something like that, and we could go and like film something great.
Yeah.
But like, what incentive outside of like, I don't know, maybe putting it on their on demand or something like that? There isn't really an incentive for them to go do that.
Yeah.
Still, like I said earlier about like anybody can steal the show whenever the hell they want. If you and me just drop the match tomorrow, we're stealing the show because tomorrow is a Wednesday and is it a Wednesday? Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Wednesday tomorrow. Yeah.
and no, but we're competing with nobody.
Yeah.
We've got nobody to fight us for it, right? There is during COVID, I remember TK Cooper and Chuck Mambo did a social distance wrestling show, and it was like TK Cooper in his living room, and he was like, "Ah," and Mambo was like, "Oh," and like selling it from the other side of the country.
Yeah.
And then they did like a couple, and I think like TK wrestled Eddie Dennis, and like, what great sync, right? And again, you're stealing the attention when nobody else is doing it. In terms of WWE, I love the creativity. Like, we're already watching the pay-per-view, so it makes no difference if it's in front of a crowd or whether it's more creative. The biggest robbery of like all time is that like we'll never have another Firefly Funhouse match because you could have done that with Randy Orton.
Yes.
Right? All the different eras of Orton. Like, he could have beaten up Evolution Orton in the nightclub and all the women go scattering.
Yes.
Like the one where Randy Orton breaks into Triple H's house. He like could have broken into the house and Bray Wyatt could have met him in the house and Triple H could have ran off. You could have, even guys who've like retired, like Batista, he would have done this.
100%.
He could have done, Deacon Dave, right?
Yeah.
God damn, like The Rock, you could have done this with The Rock because he doesn't need to, like, if The Rock isn't available for WrestleMania, they'll just shoot it 3 months ahead of time and then just put it out.
That is very true.
Man, yeah, I wish there was more room for that.
I love it. We've had I'm going to read Faye's statement and then Stacey's question. So Faye said, we can't release a match tomorrow because Eddie is facing Okada, so do it on Thursday. So yeah, we'll have to hold off on that one, dude. And then, because I ain't competing with them, fuck that shit. And did the lever get pulled on the red chair when you were on Graham Norton?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Dwayne pulled it.
Dwayne pulled it.
So Dwayne pulled it. We've got beef. We've got long-term beef.
Yeah, that's again. Well, he's stealing your nicknames, and he's pulled that for me is that's setting up WrestleMania next year now.
He definitely. I'll tell you this, right? He 100% knows who I am because there's a tweet years ago. He held this thing called Rock the Promo, and it was like he would just get people on the internet to cut promos. And I had just cut the best promo of my life, right? And real quick side story, Razor Ramon is doing an evening with, right, where he's answering questions, and it's being ran by the old promoter of Hope Wrestling. And I'm still like sometimes the cameraman, sometimes wrestling at the time, and I just cut this really high edited promo. I'm filming Scott Hall. Afterwards, we go into the little like VIP bit, and I just want to be like, "Thanks, sir. Lovely to meet you, sir." And the promoter goes, "Hey, Hustle, why don't you show him your promo?" And my heart is fucking beating like crazy.
Wow.
So I go, "Okay." So I pull this video out, right? And it's super edited, and I've gone to a graveyard, and I've got all these different angles, and it's 2.5 minutes, right? And about 30 seconds in, he raises his hand like he's going to say something. And then in the promo, I drop a punchline, and he puts his hand back down, and he keeps watching. And then another 20 seconds go by, and he goes to talk again, and then another punchline goes, and he puts his hand down. And we get to the end of it, and he was like, I go, "What did you think?" And he goes, "Too long. Nobody's going to watch that." And I went, "You did." And he went, "Not bad, kid, not bad."
Wow. I love
And
it.
yeah, that fucking, yeah,
Wow.
that made me feel some shit.
That was your mic drop like moment of like, well, you've just done that, and he's gone, oh fuck, fair, you know. And
Yeah.
that's the thing is like that effect you have on, you know, it's keeping people focused. And again, especially when you have those sort of quite long promos, it's what's keeping people interested. Faye just said, you need to do a promo like the videos on TikTok where the top half is you cutting a promo and the bottom half is you running through a Subway Surfers video.
Might nick that. Might
That's
nick
it.
that.
That is a great shout.
Genuinely, yeah. And then like maybe like Family Guy clips, but I've somehow got myself
Yeah.
into that as well.
Yeah, just appear behind the couch like when they're throwing up and stuff, and it's like you're just there like, what's going on?
Real tension revving. I like that.
Yeah. So, final question from the Discord. So, whose idea was the Taskmaster match? And obviously, this was just happened. So at Resurgence on Saturday, I was the man you and Amira tried to pin on the floor. So, and I think
Oh,
that has
amazing.
come from. I'm assuming that's come from Mark in the chat, but it's been posted in the Discord.
So, funnily enough, right, like I expected when I came back to wrestling in December, I expected to only really stay local, right?
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was coming back for me. I'm far less outcome dependent than I was before, but I kind of had to make peace with the fact that like, hey, a lot of places probably aren't going to want me. I have to mentally say all those places that were on my bucket list, like Progress or like Resurgence, I'm probably not going to do it, and that's okay. I'm going to enjoy the use of my new body and my ability to jump now.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a great time with that.
You just got
And
10-minute matches of you doing up and overs, just like over
Yeah.
and over again. The other guy's
Yeah.
just blowing up, and you're like, can't fucking catch me.
Just doing burpees. Yeah. And I kind of made peace with like, hey, if I've got a day off, I'll go to the cinema or I'll play video games or I'll just do something fun. Right, like, you know what I mean? I've got a life that I can enjoy the rest
Yeah.
of. And weirdly, this has now become like the busiest wrestling year of my life.
It's crazy how shit
I
works out like that, isn't it?
mad. But perhaps it's people being able to see that enjoyment like kind of come through me.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's just like a well done for the hard work sort of thing. So that's still nice too. But yeah, I got a message out the blue from Resurgence, and they go, "We want to do a Taskmaster match." And purely off the name alone, I was like,
I'm in. Yeah, straight
I
away.
know that. Yeah, I knew this wasn't like Hustle. We need you to be Zack Sabre Jr. And that's a golden ticket for me. That's great for me. And I went, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I've never watched Taskmaster, but I'll watch some in preparation. And they went, us neither. Right. And I went, wait, you haven't watched it
You
either?
don't know?
and you're booking, why are you booking it? And then I chatted to Amira and she was like, yeah, I've never seen it. And I was like, whose fucking idea was this?
So this was nobody's idea. This just happened. Yeah.
Somebody's written it on the run sheet for a laugh, and
Yeah.
now we're all doing it. But yeah, mental. It became like best 2 out of 3 tasks, and at the beginning of the night, it was like the first point goes to whoever can meet and greet the most fans. So I'm just like kicking her and throwing her into the wall and then being like, hey, welcome to the show. How you doing? What's going on? Like grabbing the photographer. I'm like, get a picture with my friend. Yeah, right here. And
Love it.
that became half an hour of like cardio infused beating people up and then being like, how's the kids? How you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, not so bad. Not so bad. Yeah, wild. Yeah, wild night. And
That's
you couldn't
insane.
have stayed down for a fucking three for me?
It's a
Trying
bit
to win a
harsh,
match?
Mark. Come on. You
You know what I
shouldn't,
mean?
you know, not doing the job for Hustle Malone. Who are you going to do the job for? You know what I mean? No, it's awesome. You've had a shout of Sheppy Malone in the chat there. So you're the new Zack Sabre Jr. Sheppy Malone.
There you go.
So final couple of questions from me.
Sure.
And again, back to the wrestling thing. Obviously, I am the founder of the Violent Gentleman Society. Mark's replied with, "I'm unbeaten still, so he ain't jobbing for anyone." So, in current climate Britress, if you were to create your own version of the Violent Gentleman Society, and you can call it whatever you like, so just a faction of 4 guys and 1 lady, who would you have in your faction today?
That's really interesting. The one thing I really like about your group is that you all bring different stuff to the table. Really, like maybe my second show in wrestling, somebody said to me, "Hey, I'm trying to put together a faction of all bald guys with beards," and I was like, "This group sounds a little bit racist. No, thank you. I don't.
I'm good, thank you. Yeah.
I'll do something else. Anything but this." Okay. So realistically, yeah, I want people that bring something different to me. Okay. Let's have a think. Okay, first person I'm going to go for is Tommy Kyle because
Yeah.
I think he's one of the best technical wrestlers in this country, and he hits fucking hard.
Yeah.
Um,
I would say, in fact, I'm going to make it a little bit easier for you.
okay.
Well, I may make this more difficult, actually. So we're made up of, obviously, myself, Casey Payne, and then the Quinlans and Stacey Rose. So you can have one more singles guy who you can tag with if you want, and a tag
Ooh.
team, and then it can be a female wrestler or a manager. It doesn't, they can be active or inactive. It doesn't matter. So you can have one. So Tommy Kyle would be, I'm assuming, your singles star who you could also tag with.
Cool.
So who would be the
Okay.
tag team of your faction?
I think I'm gonna go for. Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna cheat a little bit here. I'm gonna go for the Odyssey. That's
Okay.
Adonis, Payne, and Artemis.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they provide a great counter to each other. They're both super hungry. They're learning. They're growing. Like, Artemis won like a goddamn powerlifting trophy at the weekend, and it looks like the World Cup. That's my point of reference of what the trophy looks like. It just looks like the gold ball with the World Cup, and I was like, that's fucking badass.
That's cool.
So they're a great tag team. I'm gonna go. I get one more singles person, and then
No, so you've had your singles person and your tag team. So that would be your core of your version of VGS. And then you need now, you can either have a female wrestler or manager as your Stacey Rose. Who would be your Stacey Rose?
I'm gonna go for Nightshade.
Okay. Yes. Cool.
I like her strength is intense. Her acting, the little things, the little movements. I watched her win the Pro Wrestling East Women's title a couple of weeks ago, and it were little things like she would hit a move, and as she was walking over to the other person, her hands were almost like clawed as she was like walking over, and I was like, this is like watching the villain in like the best theater production that I've ever seen, and like most people are just like the video game The Green Guy. They're just walking over to the next person. I'm like, look at how much thought and effort you're putting into just
Walking.
moving.
Yeah, just walking. Yeah,
to the other side of the ring.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Really cool.
Excellent. So Stacey said there can only be one Stacey Rose. So yeah, we'll go with that.
Makes sense.
Stacey's also said you need to tick the diversity boxes though with her and Casey Payne. So yeah, you've got that covered. Um,
Right.
and Casey Payne has put Adonis, my distant half cousin. So there we go. Excellent. That's great. Final question. When are we scrapping, my dude? We need a scrap, don't we? I think it's definitely something that I've definitely pitched before. And I think whether it's a face Tommy Jackson and a heel Hustle Malone or vice versa, I think it definitely needs to happen. And I'm sure people would love to see that. You would out promo me, I'm going to give you that. I will definitely be doing the Monday Night Raw shit, but
I'll give you a real good answer to this, right? Real good answer to this. So, for those who don't know, I run a wrestling promotion in Bedfordshire called Sacrifice Pro Wrestling, right? Every show that we do is for charity. We've raised money for a different charity every show for the last 6.5 years. I love what we do. We have talent come from all over the country and we put this together, right? I've had people, and being a promoter in wrestling is a little bit like being the hot girl at the bar, right? Because sometimes you talk to people and you're like, I know why you're talking to me. Like, you don't really care about my weekend. You wanna get booking, right? And I always say the same thing to people because there are so many people that are like, hey, if you need another wrestler, if you need a spot, I'm like, there's so many fucking wrestlers. I don't need any more wrestlers, but I will hand you the guide to working for me or working for any promoter, really. Right? The hardest part about being a promoter is actually doing the thing where you sell the tickets, right? It's actually promoting. It's you've posted every graphic and then you go, what do I post now? Do I just post the graphic again? Do I just post the poster again? What do I do now? And I've said, like, if you cut a promo for anybody on my roster and send it to me and just go, hey man, I know you book Tommy Kyle. I've cut a promo calling him out for your next show. The promo's done. You can put it out tomorrow, or if your next show is busy, you can put it out after the next show, and it's ready to go. Day one, polished. It's done.
Yes.
I'll book you, right? And I know for a fact, right? If you do that with Wrestle Island and go, Hustle Malone, you're a bitch. I'll see you at the next show. And you give that to Pete and you go, it's already made, man. Right? Yeah. And I know this works because I've done this with other promotions.
Yes.
And I've cut. There are some times where, like if let's say you and me are in 3 of the same companies, or let's say even if we're not, let's say I just want to work you, right? And I know you wrestle for these 3 companies. I'll cut a promo and I'll go, right, Tommy Jackson, I'm going to beat you. See you next show, bitch. And at the end of the video is the Wrestle Island logo, right?
Yeah.
If they turn around and they go, I don't want it, I'll go, all right, I'll re-export the video and I'll put a different company's logo on the end.
Yes.
And I'll be like, it's ready to go, right?
Love it.
If you've shown the incentive of like, hey, I want the match and I'm working for it. I'm not just tweeting I emoji. I'm putting up the work up front. So I'll give that to you right there, my friend, right? If you cut a promo and go, Hustle Malone, I will see you at Wrestle Island, I can all but guarantee it will happen.
It's genius. It's so. Do you know what? And again, I've asked that question in jest, obviously, but I think it's such a key component for what you've just said there is that you don't have to cut 20 different promos. You cut one promo about one person and send that and put their logo at the end of it. It's done. It's so basic.
It doesn't even have to be great. It doesn't even have to be good. Honestly, mate. Like I had a guy who came to my show, helped out a couple of times, right? And again, like he was good. He was a wrestler. He was a good wrestler. My partner was like, cut Hustle a promo, right? Then he'll book you. And I just kind of was like, yeah, I'll say it, but like, whoever really does it, right?
Yeah.
The guy cut a promo, and I was like, great, a spot has come up. You're on the next show, my friend. And he is, because he is a good wrestler and he has ridden that wave, he's been on my shows for like a year. So if you do cut that promo for me, actually don't put Wrestle Island at the end. Just put like New Japan.
We'll get to the Tokyo Dome. We had someone say earlier on, I think it was Casey Payne, after the Rock reference and stuff, is that Hustle Malone is helping Cody finish the story at WrestleMania. You've heard it here first. Now, I just want to, again, peeling back the curtain, this has obviously been a very casual conversation, but there's one thing, I'm not sure if you'll remember this, but I had a match a couple of years ago now, it might have been 18 months ago, against Charlie Brennan. And it was a gentleman's code match. The first person I saw when I come through that curtain after losing was you. And you said to me, you had them there. Now, me getting that feedback from you was probably one of the most gratifying things I've ever had the pleasure of someone giving me feedback immediately from a match. And it meant a lot to me. As someone who struggles with their confidence of their self-belief and stuff like that. So to get that from you was such a huge boost to me, and I will always hold that in high regard. I respect you a lot, and the work you're doing consistently now is, again, it's incredible, dude. And honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you this evening. As I say, shoot some movie recommendations over. I'll chuck them in the Discord. And just before we go, I'll just double check we haven't had any more questions or statements in here. A lot of love for Sacrifice Pro. So again, doing great things. And again, we definitely need to get you more bookings up this way, not just Wrestle Island. Obviously, I work for promotions like Infamous and Off the Page and a few others, and I'm sure that a few more eyes need to be on Hustle Malone. As I say, being at Resurgence, what an opportunity for yourself, and well deserved, my dude. And it's such a unique promotion to be a part of, isn't it? I think they're very, very. I can imagine it was a lot of fun doing that kind of thing. But yeah, so where can people check you out? What are your socials? And I will post them also in the Discord if you want to check Hustle stuff out. But yeah, if you want to give us your socials, dude.
Appreciate that, my friend. Everywhere is Malone Hustle, because there's a very average rapper called Hustle Malone who beat me to it. But it's funny. Just today, I got footage back from a match, and I was about to just cut out the finishing move, and I was like, "You're Hustle Malone. You make content. I don't jab. I like to right hook."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Cool. Let's make a nice little MV. Let's make something creative. Let's grow." So I hope that by following me on anything at Malone Hustle, that when I do post, it's hopefully of some good value. I'd love to branch out, see some more northern places. That'd be great. And I just hope that places see, just like Resurgence, you're not bringing me in to have me do a Zack Sabre Jr. impression. You're hopefully paying for my creative juices. So if you want more cinematic massacres, more kaiju clashes, then let's come up with something crazy together.
Yeah, we've had Runcorn's beautiful shout from KCP, and that's for Infamous. So if you've never been up to that part of the world, mate, you'll want to get in and get out. So that's what I'll say. But honestly, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I really appreciate you taking the time. I will catch up with you shortly once I finish the stream. But again, everyone, the main man, the main guy, the absolute legend that is Hustle Malone. Have a fantastic evening, my dude. Thank you once again.
Thank you, my friend. Have a good night.
Take care. Right, guys. Did we enjoy that? He's paying for his expenses. That was a lot of fun. How was that for everyone? We'll get some tunes on to finish the stream. Bit of any Shikari. Why not? Yeah, staying on my couch. Yeah, you can stay on my couch. That's not a problem. Bear with me. Right. But yeah, guys, that was a lot of fun. Hustle is a great guy. And I'm super pleased that he was able to join me this evening. And you know, please check out his socials, check out his promos, because he is an absolute top tier guy. And it's been a lot of fun chatting to him. I didn't do the clap. Okay, wait one moment. Sorry, guys. Just at Stacey's request. There we go. Are we happy now? And do you know what? I'm going to do it again just for the point. There we go. But as I say, guys, I'm hoping to have more content like this going forward. Great trap music. Make the clapper sound. I will certainly try. Let me just close this down. Right, we are good. I will at some point. But yeah, what was everyone's thoughts on that, guys? Did we enjoy that? Would you like to see more interviews? It's great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Honestly, it's so easy to talk to, and you know, it was just a great experience, wasn't it? Honestly, he's ridiculously talented, isn't he? And as I say, we will definitely be having more interviews on the channel, so keep that in mind. Next stream we'll be reverting back to some good old-fashioned wrestling. So get your match recommendations in. If I missed any questions, I apologize. There was a lot to get through. So I have to go and prepare now for Thomas's big day tomorrow. And we will be sending you... honestly, mate, like, that's the thing. The amount of knowledge was ridiculous. But yeah, we were going to be sending you over to GC Wrestling. So I'm not sure exactly what they're watching at the moment. But I just want to say thank you so much for spending your evening with me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And next stream will probably be towards the latter stages of the week. I'll keep you updated of when I'll be going live next. And yeah, so have a fantastic rest of the week, whatever you're up to. I'll get this raid started. But it was lovely seeing you. Thank you all so much for your questions. And take care, guys.